A very good evening to you if you're watching or listening from Kenya, and a very good day to you if you're watching or listening from abroad. This is the Black Hot Fire News Update at 7. I will be looking at everything that has been happening throughout Africa. Today, not a lot has happened in Kenya, so we are going to be majorly looking at what has been happening around Africa. That is from Nigeria. I have news on Nigeria, I have news on ECOWAS, I have news on Namibia, I have news on Ivory Coast. We are going to be looking at what has been happening throughout the whole of Africa, and all the news that hit the headlines. That is from Saturday up to now. I'm live on the radio station. I'm live on the network and live on YouTube and Facebook. I'm just setting up a little bit here on the. All right, so let us get started with what has been happening throughout Africa. I hope you had a good weekend. I personally had a good weekend. It's an amazing day in Nairobi. It has been raining the whole day. It has been raining for the weekend, and that is why the weatherman, the Kenya Meteorological Department, actually came out and said we should expect heavier rains, and it is going to get really warm during the day, and it's going to rain a lot. So it has been a rainy day in Nairobi with very, very high temperatures. And so I'm going to start with that news from Kenya, where the weatherman, the Kenya Meteorological Department, has issued a weather advisory indicating rains in several parts of the country. Showers are expected for Western Kenya, the South Rift Valley, and Lake Victoria Basin, the Central Highlands, the Southeastern Lowlands, and Northwestern Kenya. According to the Kenya Meteorological Department, some areas may experience isolated heavy downpours, prompting residents to exercise caution. In addition to the rain, heavy daytime temperatures of more than 30 degrees Celsius are expected in several counties, that is including Turkana, Samburu, Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Garissa, Tana River, Lamu, Kilifi, Mombasa, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, Makueni, Kitui, Laikipia, Baringo, West Pokot, Bungoma, and Kakamega and Busia. So this is for all of you who are watching, who are listening, or who are going to watch this video from Kenya. So if you're from the areas that I've mentioned, the weatherman, that is the Kenya Meteorological Department, said you should exercise caution because there is going to be isolated heavy downpours and high temperatures during the day. So you have to find that balance between dressing lightly and dressing warmly. So the counties are, I repeat again for those of you from Kenya: Turkana, Samburu, Marsabit, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, Garissa, Tana River, Lamu, Kilifi, Mombasa, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, where we are, Makueni, Kitui, Laikipia, Baringo, West Pokot, Bungoma, Kakamega, and Busia. So we are going to experience heavy downpours on those counties and high temperatures. Residents in these areas should take proper cautions and stay cool and hydrated. So you have to find that balance between staying hydrated and staying cool and staying warm at the same time because it is raining. Meanwhile, chilly nights with temperatures falling below 10 degrees Celsius are expected in parts of Nyeri, Laikipia, and Murang'a counties, necessitating extra layers of clothing and warmth in the evening. The Kenya Met Department has urged Kenyans to stay informed and prepared for the changing weather conditions, ensuring their safety and well-being during this time. So the counties that are going to experience temperatures below 10 degrees, that is, they're going to be very cold. Nyeri, Laikipia, and Murang'a. So if you're from Nyeri, Laikipia, or Murang'a and you're watching this stream or you're going to watch this stream later, you need to dress warmly, wear an extra layer of clothing for warmth in the evening. So that is what the weatherman had to say. The other day he warned that it is going to get really hot because, of course, it is going to get hot because, of course, they talked about the equinox and the rains that are happening in Western Kenya. And so that makes the precipitation in the environment a bit higher. And, with higher precipitation, we're going to get higher temperatures. That is according to the weatherman, not me, the Kenya Meteorological Department. And in other news, if you are a reggae lover, Morgan Heritage lead singer Peter Morgan dies at the age of 46. That is for all of those who listen to reggae. I don't know if I should share one of Morgan Heritage songs. I don't know if for those viewers from abroad, whether they listen to reggae, but many people from Africa really love this Jamaican genre of reggae, and Morgan Heritage are really popular in Kenya and in Africa. Therefore, their lead singer, Peter Morgan, died at the age of 46. And Peter Anthony Morgan, the lead singer of the popular reggae band Morgan Heritage, died at 46 years. In a statement, the family said that Peter breathed his last on Sunday, however, not indicating on the cause of the death. The statement described him as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. Part of the statement read, "We ask for your continued prayers as we go through this process. We ask that you also respect our privacy during this time of healing." Peter, well known as Peter, formed Morgan Heritage with his siblings in 1994, and the band, by the way, it won a Grammy for Best Reggae Album in 2016 for their album. Their album was called Strictly Roots. So that is the album that won. The album won a Grammys in 2006. So I don't know if you guys, you can tell me if you guys listen to reggae music as much as we do in Africa. But in Africa, in most African countries, I notice reggae is a it is really popular in Kenya. It is really popular in Kenya and in Africa. So I'm actually looking for a song by Gramps Morgan so that I can share it with our listeners in commemoration of this great musician who passed away at the age of 46. The family is yet to indicate the cause of death. So that is one of the sad news that I have today. I have several sad news today, and one of them was the passing of Peter Morgan from Morgan Heritage family. So what I'm gonna share is a different video from Peter Morgan. It is Gramps Morgan, but it is from the same Morgan. It is from the same Morgan Heritage band. So that is what has been happening in Jamaica. That is in relation to sad news. And I'm coming back, headed direct to ECOWAS, and I'm going to be telling you what has ECOWAS done. But before that, let me share this video just because we lost one of the most popular reggae musicians that we know we shall win. We know we survive. Yes, so that is from Morgan, Gramps Morgan. So the reason I played that song is because we lost one of them, that is Peter Morgan. And I want you guys to tell me, Jiba Jaba is with me. Jiba Jaba, I want you to tell me, is reggae that popular where you are? It is really popular in Africa, and that is why I had to report on this news, because many people woke up to the news that Peter Morgan was dead, and of course it was sad news because reggae is really popular in Africa. So anyways, moving away from that, let us now head to Nigeria, where Nigerian army has denied report of a coup plot. So the Nigerian army has strongly denied claims of a coup plot. The defense headquarters labeled the reports false and urged the public to disregard them. This comes after Sahara reporters suggested that the presidential guard tasked with the president's protection was on alert due to coup suspicions. The report alleged that emergency meetings had been held with the Nigerian president. In response to the article, that is the Nigerian Defense Headquarters said its full commitment was to protect and sustain democracy in Nigeria. The West African country is currently suffering a punishing economic crisis, with some warning the country is at a tipping point. So Nigeria has been in a really dark place. their currency is going down, really down. The economy is really, really tough on them since Bola Tinubu came in. So when Bola Tinubu came in, I don't know why almost each and every, I was looking at most of the African presidents, when they take power, the first thing that they do is implement some punitive policies. And I saw a similarity in William Ruto and Bola Tinubu's first policies. They both abolished subsidies on fuel during their first 3 months. And I know it's not a coincidence that both of them abolished subsidies on fuel. And you know what that does in Africa? If you abolish subsidies on fuel, then the price of fuel is gonna go up. And once the price of fuel goes up, then the price of everything else goes up, because one, the price of electricity, the price of power will go up, because most countries in Africa still use diesel generators to generate electricity that is from the geothermal plants, an example being Kenya. So the moment the price of fuel goes up, then the price of electricity goes up. And what that means is the production cost of almost all goods will go up. And what that means is now the prices of goods will go up. And what that means is now people will not be able to purchase basic necessities. And then it goes like that. And the next thing that you know, the price of everything is high. And before you know it, people are suffering. So that is what Bola Tinubu did when he entered office. In the first few months, he abolished subsidies. And subsidies are what acts as a caution to the people. You know, sometimes the global prices of fuel, the global prices of, let's say, petrol might go up globally. So what governments do is they put subsidies in place to ensure that the citizens, the burden of the high prices of things will not go to the citizens alone. They share the burden. So William Ruto, Bola Tinubu, and I saw another president, I can't remember, was it Ramaphosa? The first thing that they did when they entered office was abolish subsidies. And so one of the reasons Nigeria is in the place that it is was that, and of course some other policies that made the Nigerian naira. The Nigerian naira has always been a weak currency, always been weak in comparison to even other currencies in Africa. For example, a Nigerian naira in comparison to the Kenya shillings is very weak. In comparison to the South African rand, it is very weak. In comparison to it is a weak currency. But now it has gotten even weaker. And what that means is, because Nigeria is an African country, of course, it really, really depends on imports. And now for you to import things, you need the US dollar. In the current setting, you can't import things using the Nigerian naira. So once the price of things goes up, then what that means is life gets really hard. You know, once the naira becomes weak, then life gets really hard. And that is why I really don't doubt these reports that there was an attempted coup in Nigeria. That is what I'm reporting on. There was an attempted coup in Nigeria, allegedly, which the Nigerian army has denied. The Nigerian army has denied that there was. Not that you expect them to admit there was a coup plot, but reporting on what they have said, and they say that there was no coup plot and that everything in Nigeria was all right, which I don't need to say. We all know it's a lie. And Jiba Jaba tells me, yes, with Generation X, yes, with X Gen and older folks, in my opinion. Oh, in Africa, reggae is really, 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 really popular. Most people listen to reggae. They listen to Bob Marley. They listen to Lucky Dube. They listen to the likes of UB40. You know, it's a really popular genre in Kenya. The Jamaican reggae, it's really popular in Kenya. So that is what has been happening in Nigeria. And let us now head to Namibia. And this is what has been happening in Namibia. Namibian President Hage Geingob was laid to rest in the country's Heroes Acre Cemetery on Sunday, following a state funeral attended by African leaders. The German president and Princess Anne, the sister of Britain's King Charles III. Geingob died earlier this month at the age of 82 while receiving treatment for cancer. He was Namibia's third president since it gained independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990. Before that, the South African country was a German colony. Geingob's widow, her name is Monica Geingos, delivered a message at the memorial service on Saturday, paying tribute to her husband's rise and how he was a widely respected figure on the African continent. Gengo said, and I quote, "You were born a peasant and died a president." At his funeral on Sunday, Gingob's coffin was wrapped in the Namibian flag and was carried in a glass case on the back of a military trailer. Representatives from 27 countries, including Kenya's President William Ruto, attended the funeral. That is, other people, notable people who attended the funeral include Princess Anne, German President Frank Walter Steinmeier, Qatar's President Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and 18 heads of state. The leaders of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa was there, Angola, Botswana, Kenya's William Ruto was there, Zambia's president, and Zimbabwe all attended. Steinmeier, that is, had a speech there at the memorial service, and he sent an apology to the people of Nigeria. And so Geingob had pushed for reparations for the communities affected by the massacre, that is, the colonization massacre. So Geingob had been pushing for reparations the same way Kenya has been pushing for reparations from the British government for the people who were oppressed during colonial period, which we all know might hardly ever reach the people who are really affected by, because most of them are dead, to be honest. Most of the people who fought for Kenya's independence are dead. A few are still alive, but I doubt the money will reach them. So Geingob had also been fighting for reparations for the communities that were affected by massacres more than a century ago. In 2021, the German government offered Namibia $1.1 billion in development funds to be paid over 30 years as reparations. It was rejected by the Namibian parliament and by the communities who asked for an improved offer. So initially, the German government offered them $1.1 billion US, which they rejected and said they want an improved offer. So Geingov's final resting place will be in one of the 9 museums at Heroes Acre that have been set aside for Namibians who are awarded national hero status. So that is what was happening in Namibia today. He was laid to rest on Sunday, and he died while in power. He died allegedly from cancer. They say he died from cancer while receiving treatments abroad. And let me share a video of the funeral. So this video is courtesy of African News. So I'll put a copyright disclaimer first so that it doesn't get stricken down.
Geingob was laid to rest in country's Heroes Acre Cemetery on Sunday following the state funeral. Geingob died earlier this month at the age of 82 while receiving treatment for cancer. He was Namibia's 3rd president since it gained independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990.
Our President and our Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency Dr. Hage Godfrey Geingob, rest in perfect peace. As we salute you, farewell until we meet again. May God Almighty grant unto you eternal rest and make His perpetual light shine upon you. Farewell, the people's president.
Before 1990, the Southern African country was a German colony. The leaders of South Africa, Angola, Botswana, Kenya, Zambia, and Zimbabwe all attended the funeral.
So that was the burial of Namibia's president. That was what was happening in Namibia, with Namibian President Hage Geingob being laid to rest. And let us now head to South Africa. 9 people have died in a road crash in South Africa after attending a ruling party election rally. So 9 people were killed in a road accident in South Africa on Sunday after attending an election rally by President Cyril Ramaphosa and his ruling ANC, that is the African National Congress Party. The ANC supporters were traveling on a bus back to their home province of Mpumalanga the morning after Saturday's rally in the eastern city of Durban. The ANC said in a statement the bus left the road and overturned. Emergency services said a further 70 people were hurt in the crash near the small town of Paul Petersburg, around 36 kilometers north of Durban. The ANC said that a number of the injured people were in critical condition, and provincial ANC officials were traveling to the crash scene and to the hospital where the injured had been taken. The ANC official launched its election manifesto at Durban's Moses Mabhida Stadium on Saturday in front of tens of thousands of supporters. The May 29 national election could be the biggest threat yet to ANC's 30-year in government in South Africa, with opinion polls predicting the party could lose its majority for the first time since it came to power in 1994 following the end of apartheid. I reported this last week that the May 25th South African election is going to be really contested, really highly contested. Let us not talk about the fact that it is going to be fixed, but looking at it from another perspective, it is going to be a really tough race with ANC battling the Ramaphosa's team battling Julius Malema's team. And I don't even want to talk about democracy in Africa. That is a whole new topic. It is going to take us the next 1 hour, and I don't really have all that time. But 9 people died in a road crash in South Africa after they attended a ruling party election rally, that is the ANC, in preparation for the May 25th election, which we are really following on. And I'm going to be reporting on South Africa's election more and more as it comes to, I don't know whether to say South Africans' election or South Africa's selection, which is close by. Let us now head to Ethiopia, where a French journalist has been detained in Ethiopia. A French journalist has been detained in Ethiopia while visiting the country for a recent African Union summit. His employer, according to his employer, Antonio Galindo, a Paris-based correspondent for the African intelligence website, was detained in the capital Addis Ababa last Thursday by plainclothes security officers, according to Indigo Publications. That is, they said that in a statement. Galindo had arrived in Ethiopia earlier this month to report on the annual African Union Summit and had a visa authorizing him to work as a journalist. Ethiopia's government has not publicly commented on Galindo's case, according to the statement by Indigo Publications, that is the employer of Antonio Galindo. A judge on Saturday ordered the extension of Galindo's detention until March 1st. He has been accused of conspiracy to create chaos in Ethiopia. So that is the charge that this French journalist has been charged with. Galindo was detained at Addis Ababa's Ethiopia's Skylight Hotel while he was interviewing Bata Ugresa, the spokesman of Oromo Liberation Front opposition party. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, Bata was also arrested and was still in custody. So the journalist was denied bail after police had requested his continued detention so they could access his phone records and apprehend the other suspect. So that is a French journalist who's been detained in Ethiopia. He had gone to cover the African Union summit, and he has been detained for conspiracy to create chaos in Ethiopia. Let us move to more important news, where Tunisia has jailed an opposition leader, Ben Barek, for 6 months. He's not really an opposition leader. He's a president's critic. He criticizes the president a lot. His name is Ben Barek. He has been jailed for 6 months. A Tunisian court on Saturday sentenced opposition figure Joya Ben Barek to 6 months in prison after being convicted of conspiring against state security. The news of Barek's sentencing was confirmed by his lawyer and sister. Barek is a fierce critic of President Kais Saied. He was arrested in 2023 after he criticized the 2022 parliamentary election. His lawyer criticized the sentencing, saying Barek was not given a chance to defend himself. A lawyer himself, Mbarek is a lawyer himself. Mbarek found the Citizens Against the Coup movement in 2021 following a power grab by President Said. So he runs a movement called Citizens Against the Coup. That was following a power grab by the current president of Tunisia. His name is Kais Saied. He defended his actions as necessary to fight corruption and to end political corruption gripping the North African country, then caught in the middle of a deadly, that was back then, it was in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic. Said has since grown more authoritarian, jailing activists, opposition figures, businessmen, and judges. So right now, Tunisia's president, Kais Saied, is not joking with anybody who goes against him. And this opposition leader, Ben Barek, is an example. He was jailed for 6 months, and the crime was conspiring against state security. But in reality, he was just but a critique of President Kais Saied. So that is what has been happening. What has been happening in Tunisia. Let's now head to the Sahel Alliance, something that I really love reporting on, because this is an alliance that might trailblaze, let me not use the word transform, but might trailblaze a new generation of Africa. So, ECOWAS leaders met in a bid to keep Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso in the bloc. I reported this on Thursday. We were here with Keith, and I was talking about how ECOWAS is going to do everything to make sure Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso do not leave, because they are one of the most stable countries. They are one of the richest countries in the bloc. They're the ones with the minerals. They're the ones that keep the bloc standing. So they're not really just going to let the three countries leave. So heads of state across West Africa are met on Saturday to discuss the region's challenge and to call again for the three junta-led nations, the tri-states, to rescind their decision to quit the regional bloc, as well as a plan to review imposed sanctions to reverse the coup in Niger. The summit of the 15-nation regional economic bloc, known as ECOWAS, in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, comes at a critical time when the 49-year-old bloc's future is threatened as it struggles with possible disintegration and a recent surge in coups, with the countries that had coups threatening to leave the bloc. Not actually threatening, but they left the bloc. Decisions that were to be made at the summit included how they were going to keep the three countries in the bloc, and how they were going to lift sanctions that were one of the main reasons the three countries wanted to leave the bloc. Top of the agenda is on the recent decision by Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to leave ECOWAS, or the Economic Community of West African States, over what they called inhumane sanctions. That is what the three leaders, I reported this last week, that is what the three leaders talked about as they were forming the Tri-State Sahel Alliance. They said they were leaving the bloc for two things. One, the inhumane sanctions that were put against them. The other thing was ECOWAS said that it doesn't recognize them as government. And so they said, if you do not recognize us as governments, then why don't we go and form our own government? If you really don't recognize us like that, then we can form our own government. So that was what was happening with ECOWAS. They met, and there has been several coups in West Africa. A total in West and Central Africa, there has been at least 9 coups, by the way, since 2020, including that of Niger, another one in Mali. There's been many coups in West Africa, and that is why I said I really love reporting about the Sahel Alliance and the West Africa, because I feel like they're the ones that are gonna trailblaze a new generation of Africa, a generation of Africa that really does not fall into, because they really tried to intimidate these countries into going back to the earlier ways, the what I would call the neo-colonialist way. But the countries, they really stood with their military junta and made sure that they were not going to go back to the neo-colonial way, and they were going to liberate themselves from neo-colonialism.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has lifted financial and economic sanctions against Guinea and removed restrictions on the recruitment of Malian citizens for the positions within ECOWAS institutions. These decisions come after a summit convened to discuss politics, peace, and security in the region. Notably, Burkina Faso, also under military rule since 2020, remains unmentioned in the ECOWAS statement. The lifting of sanctions signals a potential resumption of dialogue with the military regimes in Guinea and Mali, despite their recent intentions to leave ECOWAS.
So that was what resulted from the summit. The result of the summit was lifting of, that was they lifted sanctions, some of the sanctions that they had put, that is for Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Most of those sanctions were lifted, and now they were the coup sanctions. They came after the coup, and the economic, that is the West African regional bloc known as ECOWAS, lifted travel, commercial, and economic sanctions imposed on Niger that were aimed at reversing a coup that was staged in the country last year. The sanctions will be lifted with immediate effect, the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Ali Touré, said after the bloc's meeting in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. That was on Saturday. The meeting aimed to address existential threats facing the region, as well as implore the three junta-led nations that have quit the bloc to reverse their decision. The lifting of the sanctions on Niger is on purely humanitarian grounds to ease the suffering caused as a result. That was according to Touré. That is ECOWAS Commission Omar Touré said that the lifting of the sanction was purely on humanitarian ground. But we all know why they were lifted. Nobody really cares about humanitarian grounds like that. But anyway, let us read the propaganda. So he said they were purely on humanitarian grounds. The summit of the 15-nation regional bloc, economic bloc known as ECOWAS, was in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and they talked about how they were going to have the three junta-led nations back to the bloc. As I said, they really don't want them out of the bloc. That is what has been happening with ECOWAS and the Sahel Alliance. At least some positive news today with the Sahel Alliance and the junta, and the lifting of the sanctions are positive news, because it shows that the people of the three Sahel Alliance countries have won the battle against ECOWAS. I don't know about the other battles, but they have won the battle against ECOWAS, and ECOWAS is now on the begging side. You know, a few months ago, they were the one on the begging side. ECOWAS was the one issuing the threats, saying that if you don't reinstate government by this date, we are going to send military interventions to your countries, you know. But right now, it looks like the tables have turned, and they have realized that these leaders are really not going to, they're really not going to fall into, we are not gonna get intimidated like that. And now it looks like ECOWAS is the one on the begging side. They're the ones lifting the sanctions. The other day they sent the former Nigerian president, the old man, to beg them not to leave. They had a whole summit. 15 leaders had to meet for a summit to talk about how the three nations are not gonna leave. So it looks like the tables have turned, and now they're the ones on the begging side. And let us end the updates with really sad news from Zambia, where 700 people have died from cholera outbreaks as cases surge. Zambia has seen a surge in cholera cases since January 2024, while fatalities are reported to have reached 700, according to medical and charity doctors. The country has recorded nearly 20,000 infections since the outbreak, which started in October 2023. While at the beginning of the outbreaks, cases were restricted to Lusaka and Ndola, the two largest cities in Zambia, the disease has since spread to all provinces of the country, with the potential to affect the entire South African region. Infections have already been reported in neighboring Zimbabwe, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Malawi. President Hakainde Hichilema's government looks like it is not having any strong response strategy to counter the disease, because all that has happened was a large soccer stadium in the capital has been converted into a treatment facility. So it looks like President Hakainde Hichilema really does not have a plan on how to counter this. And 700 people have died out of cholera in Zambia. And the sad part is that the disease is spreading, and right now it has affected people in Zimbabwe, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Malawi. And these are countries that are not really doing well because DRC is in the middle of a war, so nobody is really gonna care about cholera, and so that means more people are gonna die in DRC because of cholera. Zimbabwe is a country that I don't want to talk about, poor to the core with corrupt leaders, and now infections have entered Zimbabwe too, and Malawi also. So all we can do is hope for the best, because with countries like DRC that are in the middle of a war with at least 100 armed groups fighting in DRC Congo, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, I really don't know whether the government is going to put a nerve in place for it to curb this outbreak. So we can only hope. So 700 people have died so far in Zambia, and as I said, the president of Zambia, that is Hakainde Hichilema, does not seem to know what to do. All he has done is converted a large soccer stadium in the capital into a treatment facility. 20,000 infections have been reported so far, with the worst being in Lusaka and Ndola, that is the two largest cities in Zambia. So our thoughts and prayers as the Black Hot Fire Network family goes out to the people of Zambia who are in a tough period with 700 people dead and 20,000 others sick. Our thoughts and prayers go to the people of Zambia, and we all we can do is wish quick recovery to the ones who are sick, and because in Africa and in countries like Zambia and Zimbabwe and DRC, we can only hope. So that is the sad update that we were to end the show with. And Jiba Jaba says, unsanitary water supply, that's a disgrace. And he said, build a water treatment plan and the supply infrastructure. What a disgrace, these officials. That is what, I don't know what to add to that, Jiba Jaba, because if I start complaining about Africa right now and the leaders and not putting enough infrastructure, then Joby will not be able to do her show, because it makes me really mad when I look at some things like this, and you look at some of these countries like Zambia, you look at some of these countries like they have the most punitive taxes. They are one of the most punitively taxed countries in Africa. The taxes are so punitive. They are so high. And so the taxes are so high, but the leaders cannot even have infrastructure. We are okay with not having jobs. We are okay with, but water, just good water is all we need. And Keith is asking me what happened with the water. So apparently in Zambia, 700 people have died from a cholera outbreak, as cases are looking like they are surging. It broke out in October, and right now 20,000 people are sick, 700 people are dead so far. And the worst part is the disease has now spread to DRC, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. So what that means is more deaths. Expect more deaths. That is the reality of the situation, because DRC is in the middle of a war, so nobody is really going to care about cholera or water. Zimbabwe is a country that I don't want to talk about, and Malawi is a poor country. So nobody is really going to care about the cholera or the infections. We can only hope. So that was what has been happening throughout Africa on a night when Nigerian army has denied reports of a coup plot, on a night where Namibia's president Hage Geingob has been laid to rest at Heroes Acre Cemetery after state funeral, on a night where 9 people have died in a road crash accident in South Africa after attending ANC election manifesto launch. It is also a night when a French journalist, his name is Antonio Gualindo, has been detained in Ethiopia, where he had gone to cover the African Union Summit, and he has been detained for what they called conspiracy to cause chaos in Ethiopia. It is also a night where Tunisia has jailed opposition leader Ben Barek for 6 months. So this is what happens in Africa. You criticize the president, you are jailed. Ben Barek has been jailed for 6 months by Tunisia's president, Said. Kais Said jailed his opposition leader, so no opposition in Tunisia for the next 6 months. It's also a night where ECOWAS has lifted bans on some of the Sahel alliance countries in what looks like a turn of the tables. Looks like now ECOWAS is on the begging side, and they have realized that the Sahel alliance is not gonna back down. It is also a night where Ivory Coast president has pardoned dozens jailed for treason. So Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara has pardoned and ordered the release of 51 people who had been convicted of treason and other state security charges. It is also a night where 700 people have died in Zambia out of cholera outbreak. So that, in a nutshell, is what has been happening throughout Africa today and over the weekend. And Keith says that's why they are saying these African leaders can't govern and should be colonized again. Don't know what to add. Coming up next is Joby, and I guess Keith will be joining him. She tells me today she has a very hot show, so you should make sure you join her. She's actually confirming that today she has a lot planned. So make sure to join her. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your night if you're watching from Kenya, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day if you're watching from abroad. Make sure to join me tomorrow for the news update. It's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.